What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. I talk a lot about astrology, and I talk about it through a self-growth, personal growth lens, and I also try to make it fun and down to earth. So today we're going to talk about Taurus Rising. What does this mean? What are the basic personality traits, gifts, strengths, and challenges? So hopefully you're interested in that, and that's why you're here. If you really meant to click on how to keep your houseplants alive, I'm sorry, I'm really not going to be able to help you with that. And if you do figure that out, please get in touch because I am struggling. What is going on over there? That's sad. That's a sad looking plant. Also, I think today is St. Patrick's Day. I should do something. I'm pretty Irish, although I have been trying to drink less or be more choosy about when I go out and drink. St. Patrick's Day feels very much like a drinking holiday. So I don't know. Things feel quieter today. My cat also just puked 3 times in the corner. So, I mean, he's fully celebrating. And I'm here. I'm going to make this video on Taurus Rising. So why don't we actually get into it? A rising sign, or your ascendant, that is the sign that was on the horizon at your time of birth. So it's determined not just by your birth date and year, it is based on a specific time, and it changes every 2 hours. And because that's such a fast moving point, it has a really big effect on the individual. It basically sets the stage for where other planets in the chart are going to fall, like what houses they're going to fall in. And the ascendant is a very personal point. It can say something about how we look, how we come across, how our energy comes across. Some have described it as sort of the mask that we wear and the way that other people perceive us. That's true to some degree. I don't really like the word mask because it makes it seem like it doesn't have an effect on us, that it's only about outward expression or other people's interpretations of us. I would say that the ascendant is the theme of our life. Whatever sign is on the ascendant, we are walking that sign's road in life. And because the position of the ascendant will deposit locations of other points in the chart, it really can say a lot about us and our own internal experience of life and external experience, regardless of how other people are perceiving us. Now, the planet that rules your rising sign, that is said to be the ruler of your chart. And you need to also look at that planet because that is going to say a lot more about your rising sign. Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is a planet of harmony. It's about, people say it's about what we love or how we love or the things we find beautiful. And yes, that's all true. But Venus is all about what we say yes and what we say no to. At the center of all of that, like what we find beautiful, what we do love, what we open ourselves up to, it's all this process of experiencing everything and saying yes to it or saying no to it. And Venus has something to say about our personal tastes and preferences and how we find comfort. And Taurus being ruled by Venus, it is one of 2 signs that are ruled by Venus, a Taurus and Libra. Taurus is an earth sign, so Taurus it's like an earthy Venusian sign. It is about how we adjust our material choices, our mode of being. Taurus wants and enjoys comfort. They want things to feel smooth, and they don't like jagged edges. They don't like messes. They don't really like conflict or stress or strife. Preferably, they want to kind of do things at their own pace and everyone relax and come on, like I'm making a really fine spaghetti and have a seat, sit on the couch. It's nice for you. Have a drink, right? We're going to have a good time. We're going to play some music. Things are going to be really good. These things are embodied in a Taurus ascendant. It's someone that does seem very steady and grounded and comfortable, and someone that is enjoyable to be around. These folks are appealing. You have Taurus rising folks that can feel very earthy and feel really connected to things that they do with their hands, or can also be people that do appreciate more of the Venusian element of it. They like to be put together. They have kind of a effortless sense of style, of beauty. They do take pride in their appearance. They don't necessarily think a ton about it, but they come across as someone that they're aesthetically pleasing. They have a deliberate sense of style. And their style is very reflective of the things they value. It doesn't matter if they're, farmers, they have like a farmery kind of look, or they're super crunchy REI kind of person. They have all the gear and they're Patagonia people, or they're very into beauty and aesthetics and they wear a lot of makeup, or they take a lot of pride in styling their hair. Like whatever it is, it's again a reflection of the things that make them feel good and comfortable in life. They like things that appeal to the senses, things they can touch, things they can feel, things they can smell, right? Taurus is a sensory-driven sign. They want to feel good. They love putting on something new, or they love music, or a fine meal, or a really comfortable home. A Taurus rising person is sensitive to all of these things, and you see it incorporated and reflected in how they come across and how they present themselves. Taurus rising folks, they crave and seek stability in many aspects of their life. They are deliberate and slow to let new things come into their life. They're not the kind of person that starts dating someone and suddenly they remake their whole life around it just to accommodate this relationship. Like, it takes time, but once Taurus rising folks do commit or take something on, it's there for a while. A mundane interpretation of Taurus energy is that they are materialistic, or they are obsessed with money or finances. But the essence of Taurus is all about this idea of what do you value? What do they value? And so that can be literally like things of value, money and nice things, but it can be anything that you can value anything, right? And whatever those things are, they are deeply held by Taurus, very deeply held. Taurus rising's life experiences are through this lens of, do I value it? Is it valuable to me? Does it square with how I've chosen to live my life and what I've chosen to say yes and say no to? Now, when you meet a Taurus rising person, they are very easy to talk to. They're very friendly. They're easy to be around. They usually have good social skills. But if you push a little bit further or go a little bit deeper, you do run up against some more of that kind of fixed ground energy, where Taurus is open and friendly, but sometimes to an extent that it is relatable to them. If a Taurus rising meets someone and their values are aligned, they will hit it off very quick. They'll have a great time. They'll have a day. Now, if Taurus, on the other hand, Taurus rising encountering someone that is very different, very exotic, or has very different opinions, you see what appeared before to be friendliness or social come across more as resistance. Like, a Taurus rising wants to listen to people only to the extent, again, it can kind of fit into their value framework. Someone that is immediately challenging a Taurus rising, either just in the things they say, or their opinions, or the way they carry themselves, or the way they dress, Taurus rising has a tendency sometimes to want to immediately sort of put it in a box, like, what was the deal with that guy? Or like, that girl was weird. Or sometimes that resistance can come out where you feel like a Taurus rising person isn't totally hearing the other person. They're hearing what they want to hear, or they're directing or steering things, again, towards things that Taurus finds valuable. Like, Taurus doesn't want to be pulled anywhere. They want to be in their comfort zone, comfortable with the things and the opinions that are being talked about. They want to be in settings and scenery that's comfortable to them. As soon as Taurus gets pulled, either directly by saying, hey, Taurus, come here, or they're just assaulted with all these different kind of exotic influences, Taurus rising is like, I I don't really want to do this. This is like not me. They tense up and they resist and they get a little stubborn. So yes, they are likable and they do want to be liked to an extent. They do want to make people feel good and they want to create harmony, but as soon as they sense kind of the conflict or someone disagrees with them, they're also quick to be like, yeah, whatever, I didn't like them anyway. Or, again, what was their deal? The karmic inheritance for Taurus is actually pretty good, right? It's kind of a life of sensual pleasures where they want things to feel good. They don't have this inherent drive to rock the boat or to challenge you or take people down or conquer. They're kind of like Ferdinand the Bull, if you know that children's story. All the matadors or whatever they're called, they all want Ferdinand the Bull to be like this fiery, angry, bull that's like other bulls and he's, a psycho. But Ferdinand just wants to freaking smell the flowers, right? He wants to be a gardener. He likes nice things. He's fine being in a sunny field and doesn't want to go into like a matador stadium and charge people. I don't blame him, right? That's kind of like Taurus in this life. It's like, why? I just let me do me. I want to do my thing. Don't rush me, right? Like everyone chill out. At home, this is sort of the arena for Taurus Rising to be their most expressive and flamboyant selves to the extent they are. They're not the most flamboyant or expressive people at all, but the home is where they truly let their expressiveness and their indulgence really live. They really like a really nice home. Leo is on the 4th house if we are taking a whole sign approach, and Taurus is the rising sign. And so the home is where Taurus can express their, lavish tastes and their stylistic choices, and how they operate in private is a lot more performative and fun and silly and carefree, and they really feel safe in their home. Now, this can also mean that the Taurus rising person grew up in a situation where it was their parents or their families or their communities' uniqueness or dramatics that kind of took the stage. Taurus rising is comfortable and steady and collected in most of their life, and they don't rock the boat, in part because, again, they were conditioned to not do that. They didn't always grow up in situations where their own over-the-top expressiveness was really rewarded or encouraged. Sometimes had a childhood where they had to just sort of have a blind loyalty to the family or parents or the way that things were done. Sometimes they just had a super over-the-top parent that sucked up a lot of the oxygen. So Taurus Rising's own home is sort of an arena for them to do that in their own way. Sometimes they kind of mimic that. On the whole, though, childhood was typically fun. And Taurus Rising folks typically didn't worry about things or didn't have to worry about things. Maybe they got the attention that they wanted, or maybe they didn't, but they didn't think about things or take things too seriously. Now, the real superpower of Taurus Rising, it is this steadfastness that is so insanely attractive and valuable. It is the ability to show up and be present every day and to appreciate the small pleasures, like appreciating a morning coffee, like appreciating how you've assembled your living room, appreciating physical affection. They want to experience all these beautiful things that life has to offer and to soak it up. And they're insanely reliable and trustworthy. And that Taurus Rising isn't just gonna flip over the freaking table of everything and cause chaos. They're there, and they have this incredible ability to manifest what their values and desires are. So talked about Taurus, it's about what we value. Well, Taurus Rising person is living a life which is geared towards manifesting whatever that is. It can be extreme material success and having beautiful things, or it can, maybe they are super outdoorsy people and so they live a life where they are making sure to take a lot of trips or They travel a lot or get out. They incorporate it into their life. And this power of manifestation is incredibly powerful. It's colossal. It's not something that they just do overnight. They don't do it through luck or guile or, it's through deliberate day after day showing up. The power of consistency. Like a mountain is eroded not overnight. You don't bang out an all-nighter and erode a mountain. It's that steady force applied over time, it's incredibly powerful. Taurus Rising hates the idea of stress. Like being stressed out. Why would you be stressed out? Keep your stress over there, Rebecca. Like don't bring your negative energy here. But it's not just that they dislike stress. They have somewhat of a force field around it. They can put it aside, they can compartmentalize it, they can withstand a lot of stress. They are incredibly good under pressure. They perform the same no matter what. It depends on the rest of the chart, but a Taurus rising person is not someone that's going to be deterred because they're being criticized or because things feel hard or they're up against a wall. They find an ability to enjoy the moments and the process and the steps along the way and putting one foot in front of the other. They wake up and they do the thing and then they do it again and they do that day after day. And it's not sexy, but over time, it can be very sexy. In the professional arena and at work, because of this, Taurians can come across as very logical, somewhat almost detached because of that consistency and that steadfastness. People almost are like, are you human? It comes across as less earthy and more logical. Taurus is like, I have a goal in mind. This is what I have to do. They are consistent and practical at work, and people don't necessarily feel like they know the real Taurus rising on the inside or what their guts are made of or what boils their piss, right? Like they don't get mad at work. In those stressful situations, they don't let their emotions come out. They don't tolerate bullshit. I mean, if they see injustice in the workplace or they see the micromanaging boss, they definitely see it and acknowledge it. And they're like, yeah, that's stupid. But they find a way to kind of just, slide on by and deal with it. And they don't let themselves get so affected. And this makes them incredibly effective people at work. And they do, despite, sometimes having very strong material or money type goals, which is fine. They do genuinely want their work to move the needle. Like they want it to be benefiting the group in some way. They want to be a participant in the collective. They hope that they're doing something that's not harming people and that can be arguably good. But they're not people, again, that are bleeding all over the boardroom or crying at work or wearing their heart on their sleeve. They separate it, right? There is a detachment. These are people that don't necessarily need to be best friends with their coworkers or go out drinking with them. It's like they're at work, they're here, they're ready to bring what they have to the table, and then they're ready to go back home. And at home for Taurus, that is more where they indulge their sensual life and they indulge and enjoy the things that are meaningful and pleasurable for them. Now, the challenge with all these gifts for Taurus is, again, sometimes needing to light a little bit more of a fire under their ass. They are slow to act. They're very deliberate. I mean, it's kind of like, having to turn around a big freight ship, right? Or I remember when that ship got stuck in the canal like a few years ago. When Taurus wants to turn, it's a slow process. Or if they think about making a change, that's how they approach it. They're not one for the quick pivot. Like they're not suddenly gonna quit their job on the spot and be like, freaking YOLO, like peace, and throw out the papers and flick everyone off. Like that's not, I don't really recommend that for anyone, but that's not Taurus's style. They're slow to make decisions, but when they do make decisions, they take them very seriously. And Taurus doesn't need to be someone else. Like they don't need to change this about themselves, but they do need to be aware of it and sometimes hold themselves accountable, because what can happen is that Taurus risings can have a resistance to change. Like they can insulate bad situations and stay in them longer than they should when they're no longer serving them, simply because they are maybe they're just resistant to a change. Like change and constant novelty and constant upheaval and the big weight of the unknown, it's just like not Taurus's vibe. They don't really love it. This is not really a risk-taking rising sign, right? This is not a sign that, wants to, quit everything or take some big gamble or pick up and move and go take that job without really a clue like how all the pieces are going to come together. And again, that's fine, but Taurus rising can also get caught in this life where, it's like, yeah, this thing isn't really what I want, or this thing isn't really what I want, but like I'm enjoying, I just go home and watch Netflix and it's going to be okay. And like, I don't know, I'm not going to worry about it. And then they just kind of kick things down the road. Sometimes they really do need to freaking throw the table up in life and clear everything. And they're never going to do it totally like that. But what Taurus needs to realize is that actually sometimes it really serves them, or it's in favor of getting the things that they value to take some more of those risks and to be a little bit more agile. And this speaks to the fact that for Taurus rising, Aries is the sign on the 12th house. And the 12th house is things that are hidden, things that are repressed, not as accessible, not as easily known to the individual themselves, not easily put out into the world. And Aries is all about spontaneous action. It is the kind of YOLO, I'm just going to freaking do it. And I'm not going to ask for permission. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. Sorry for living. And they worry about the consequences later, right? And this is repressed for Taurus. And so while they come across as having this very deliberate approach to life, they are upfront in some sense about what they want to accomplish. It's actually not always so obvious, or it's actually not so known what is actually underlying those decisions for Taurus. What is underlying this need and want for a need to go at their own pace? It's not clear. Like Taurus needs to get a little bit more in touch with those desires, but it's not intuitive for them necessarily. This can be an issue, or this is the issue with sometimes Taurus not examining this or taking things too slow or valuing stability or patience or consistency too much, because suddenly so much time goes by and then they realize that maybe this isn't quite what I wanted. And then they have to go through this long process of steering the ship around. A good question or affirmation for Taurus rising is, what is the true inner child? What are my really core desires? And what would I do if there weren't consequences, or if I didn't have the structures in my life, or I could pick at anything and start over? Like trying to get in touch with these. It's really important for Taurus rising to do that once in a while. That repressed Aries energy, you can sometimes see it explode and come out in moments if Taurus rising does kind of repress those primal instincts too much. Because Taurus rising, they come across as nice and sociable, and they're sensual, and they can be stubborn, they can be hard, and they have rough edges. But when their ego or their decisions or their approach is like too strongly criticized, or they meet opposition in a way that kind of ruffles the fact that they're a little bit unsure or a little bit insecure about it on the inside, that's when the kind of violent, repressed Aries energy can come out, and they can have an extreme temper. And so this is the salty, the not so sexy shadow of Taurus rising, and all signs have them. It is that there is a little bit sometimes of an underlying insecurity or lack of assuredness that all of this really is what they want, or something they inherited. Are they living a life that's based on a value system they know is going to bring them comfort and safety, or is it really aligned with what they truly want? And there's no right or wrong answer in terms of how you want to live life. Like sometimes for a Taurus rising, the comfort is an easier way of living. There's advantages there, but you can't completely shut out, your core spontaneous instincts and that spontaneous expression. And getting in touch with those at least a little bit more can help Taurus rising be a little bit more agile and quick to move when maybe it might serve them. The other way that the intensity of a Taurus rising placement can come out is in the context of relationships. The sign that's on the 12th house for Taurus rising, it's Aries. Those can indicate, some more repressed traits. The sign that's on the 7th house, the opposite, the descendant, is another type of shadow. It's the opposite of yourself. It is the qualities that you are going to meet both in yourself and in other people, often through interactions, often through close interactions with other people. And so for Taurus, the opposite sign is Scorpio, and Scorpio represents a lot of the traits Taurus doesn't have because it's opposite. And so Scorpio kind of loves to live in chaos and upheaval and transformation, and they live a life towards extremes and really pushing the envelope because for them, that's their karmic process of kind of going through life. And where Taurus is more consistent, Scorpio is trying to do the same thing. They both really want security, both these signs. And Scorpio is just doing it in kind of extremes, and the sort of the median is hopefully something in the middle, but it's just different approaches. And in relationships, these qualities are going to be faced by the Taurus rising person, and they're gonna come across people in their relationships that are intense, or they're going to see as chaotic, or people that are going to demand things of Taurus that these Scorpio themes might be fitting. And so there can be push-pull between stability and security and death and endings. And I don't mean death always like, oh, death, right? But it's like moving houses or changing jobs or leaving relationships. Those are deaths and endings. And Taurus doesn't love that stuff. And they're going to have to confront their resistance to that in relationships, because relationships is a type of death and a type of life. There is a sacrifice. There is a necessity to have to engage in things that aren't easy and comfortable, and to have to engage in change. And even the Taurus rising individual themselves can display some kind of scorpionic traits with partners or other people because they value consistency, stability, which kind of sometimes touches on the ability to have control over things or expectations. They can sometimes be jealous or possessive, or they can sink kind of scorpionic teeth into things, either consciously or unconsciously, as a way to self-sustain the Taurus rising energy. All rising signs have to some degree, be able to learn to balance and integrate their opposites. And for the Taurus-Scorpio axis, it's all about how we maintain a sense of security amidst inevitable change, the kind of approach that we take towards seeking and embracing change in our life versus resisting it. And there's no right answer or one way this is going to play out, but it behooves a Taurus rising to kind of be aware of some of these dynamics. A Scorpio lens can remind Taurus rising that there is a time to let go and to let things die, and let things die an honorable death. And sometimes this can be letting go of a job, or letting go of a certain way of life, or letting go of relationships that aren't serving them. Taurus, they sometimes see that letting go or that death, the endings of things, they see it as like an indictment of them. They see it as a failure. They see time invested, or they see something as a source of good moments that they don't want to let go of. And sometimes they need to, and it's going to brush up against that Taurian Venusian energy of wanting things to just be fine and comfortable. But Taurus needs to remind themselves that they do sometimes have to say no to things and walk away from things, and it's not going to feel good. It's not going to be comfortable. Ferdinand the Bull is sometimes not going to be able to smell the flowers in the way that he wants to, and it's okay, because in the long run, it can be better for the Taurus rising. So this video went a little bit longer than I intended. I always get very wordy in these videos, so I'm not going to summarize too much. But for Taurus rising, right, big takeaways are: you don't need to do something necessarily different, right? You are a Taurus rising, and embrace your gifts, your ability to exercise patience, your ability to manifest, and to kind of stay in the cockpit of life and not get bothered. Having said that, don't fear the bee sting. Don't fear getting stung on your ass. Sometimes these are wake-up calls for you, and you don't necessarily love change, but recognize that some change is really important and it will serve you. Beauty, creativity, sensuality, your personal tastes, and how you think about all these things, like they're so reflective of you and your personality and your gifts that you bring to your life. And these are very much you, but also realize that there may be space for you to get more in touch with what your like raw desires are, not just what you like, but what you really need. Sometimes like a healthy selfishness is really important. And sometimes that requires you rethinking what your definition of that is. It's this weird catch-22 of Taurus rising sometimes needing to embrace a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more agileness, being more open to change, but also getting in touch with their own raw desires. It's all of astrology, nothing is going to be neat. There's always going to be seeming inconsistencies, but be aware of these things, flag them, and things that make sense later, and things that don't make sense now can make sense later. Don't be afraid of embracing new experience or stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like, you can discover a whole world and universe of beauty that you never even realized, simply because you never left what was really comfortable or familiar. So challenge yourself in that way. And lastly, again, I want to emphasize that a lot of this we're talking about a singular part of the chart. There's inevitably going to be some generalization. You would have to really look at the rest of the chart, particularly what your Venus looks like, where it is, what sign it's in, is going to say a lot more and fill in a lot of the gaps that we've been talking about. But hopefully this high level explanation and overview is helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.